A former casino floor manager just revealed something that could save you hundreds of dollars every single visit to the casino. And honestly, what he told me about the habits that casinos actively encourage will probably change the way you gamble forever. He worked on the floor for 12 years, and he said there are 9 specific habits that instantly put you at a disadvantage the moment you sit down at a machine. Habits that the casino industry has spent millions of dollars in research to encourage. Habit number 1. Playing maximum lines on penny slots. I watched a woman named Linda walk up to a penny slot machine with a $100 bill in her hand. She told the person next to her that she was being careful with her money, that she was only playing pennies. 40 minutes later, her $100 was completely gone, and she looked genuinely confused about how it disappeared so fast. Here's what a former floor manager told me about this exact scenario. He said most players think they're betting a penny per spin, but when you're playing 50 lines at a penny each, you're actually betting 50 cents every single time you hit that button. That's not penny gambling anymore. The math is absolutely brutal when you break it down. At 50 cents per spin, you're going through about 120 spins per hour at a comfortable pace, which means you're betting $60 every single hour. According to internal observations from former employees, this is the single most common misconception on the casino floor, and casinos deliberately call them penny slots, even though nobody is actually betting a penny. The line configuration is specifically designed to maximize your total bet size while maintaining that penny illusion in your mind. Documentation from former workers shows that players consistently underestimate their actual cost per spin by a factor of 20 to 50 times. And if you think that's costing you money, this next habit is what a former pit boss called dead money the moment he sees it happening. Habit number 2. Chasing losses by increasing bet size. There was a man named Robert sitting at a video poker machine, and I watched him go from $2 bets to $25 bets in about 90 minutes. He was down about $300, and you could see the exact moment when he decided that bigger bets would help him recover faster. Here's what a former pit boss named Marcus told me about Robert's situation, and it's something that should honestly be taught before anyone walks into a casino. He said this is what we call dead money in the industry, because the moment a player starts increasing their bet size to chase losses, we know that bankroll is going to the house. The mathematical reality that most players don't understand is that each spin is completely independent. Your previous losses have absolutely zero effect on what's going to happen next. According to documentation from former employees, there was a player who went from $2 bets to $25 bets in the span of 90 minutes, and by the end of that session, he'd turned a $300 loss into a $2,000 loss. The return to player percentage doesn't change when you bet more money. If a machine has an 88% RTP, that stays exactly the same whether you're betting 50 cents or $50. What does change is the speed at which your bankroll depletes. Higher bets mean you're going to hit your financial limit much faster, and the volatility gets amplified to a point where a few bad spins can wipe out everything you have left. Yet the psychological trap here is what former employees call the one big win fallacy, where players convince themselves that a single large payout will erase all their previous losses. Casino staff are actually trained to recognize this behavior, and internal reports indicate they view it as one of the most profitable player patterns they can identify. But here's a habit that casino hosts actually celebrate when they see it happening, and the reason why will probably surprise you. Habit number 3. Using the casino player's card incorrectly. There's this common misconception that the player's card makes the machines tighter, that the casino uses it to track your play and reduce your chances of winning. A former slot director told me something that completely contradicts what most people believe. He said we absolutely love when players believe this myth, because it means they're either playing without the card and missing out on every possible comp, or they're using the card but thinking it gives them some kind of advantage. The real disadvantage has nothing to do with the card affecting the random number generator, because it doesn't. The card only tracks your play after the outcome is already determined. The actual disadvantage is psychological, according to analysis from former casino marketing directors. Players with cards tend to play about 35% longer on average because they're justifying extended sessions by telling themselves they're earning points and rewards. There was a documented case of a woman who tracked her yearly losses through her players' card statements, and the total came to $47,000. The casino had given her back maybe $200 in free play and a few buffet comps. Before I reveal habit number 4, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments whether you use a player's card when you gamble. Now, this next habit is so common that dealers can spot it within about 30 seconds of watching someone play. Habit number 4. Playing when tired, drunk, or emotional. I've watched 3 different people hit significant wins, and every single one of them left the casino with less money than they started with. There was a man named Tony at a Dragon Link machine, and I watched him hit a bonus round that paid $800. He was up about $600 total at that point, and you could see the excitement on his face. 2 hours later, he walked past me heading to the ATM, and he'd lost everything plus another $400 from his bank account. Here's what a former problem gambling counselor told me about Tony's situation, and it's something that honestly made me reconsider how I think about winning. She said this is the most preventable mistake we see in gambling addiction cases. Well, because the difference between winning and losing often comes down to a single decision about when to stop. According to statistical analysis from gambling behavior researchers, 89% of players who hit significant wins during a session will leave the casino with less money than they arrived with. Internal casino studies have documented this pattern extensively, and the data shows that players without predetermined win and loss limits will almost always play until their bankroll is depleted. The psychological mechanism behind this is what former counselors call moving target syndrome. You tell yourself you'll leave when you're up $500, but when you hit that number, it suddenly becomes $1,000, then $1,500. The goal keeps shifting further away no matter how much you win. Yes, there's documentation of a woman who hit a $3,000 jackpot on a machine, and she left the casino 4 hours later, down $1,200 from where she started. The just one more spin mentality destroys more winning sessions than probably any other factor. A casino dealer with 15 years of experience told me he's seen this pattern hundreds of times, where players get ahead and then convince themselves they'll stop after they get back to even, not realizing they've already passed even 3 or 4 times. The mathematical truth that most players ignore is that the longer you play, the closer your results will get to the expected loss. Short sessions have variance where anything can happen, but extended sessions will always trend toward the house edge. Return to player percentages work over time, which means staying at a machine for hours will inevitably push your results closer to that 8 or 10 or 12% loss rate. Former casino managers have stated in interviews that they know most winners will become losers if they stay on the property long enough, which is why there are no enforced cooling-off periods or mandatory breaks. One former manager said, "We know most winners become losers if they stay, and we design everything from the floor layout to the complimentary drink service to encourage them to stay." But here's where it gets really insidious, because this next habit can turn a winning moment into a nightmare scenario that you'll think about for years. Habit number 6. Playing progressive jackpots without maximum bet. Imagine hitting the right symbol combination on a machine, watching the screen light up with the jackpot symbols, and then realizing you don't actually qualify for the prize. There was a bachelorette party that came through a casino in Nevada, and one of the women was playing a megabucks machine. She hit the megabucks symbols across the pay line, and the entire group started screaming and jumping around. Then the slot attendant came over and explained that she'd been betting $2 per spin instead of the $3 maximum required to qualify for the progressive jackpot. Instead of winning the multi-million-dollar prize, she won $2,100. Thus, the technical explanation for how progressives work is something that casinos don't make obvious on every screen, according to former slot technicians. A portion of every bet goes into the progressive pool, but you're only eligible to win that pool if you're betting the maximum amount. Former slot technicians have said they've witnessed this situation happen at least once a month in major casinos. There's a documented case of a man who hit jackpot symbols that would have been worth $2.1 million. But because he was betting below the maximum, he received $2,100 instead. This is completely legal and within the rules that are technically disclosed, but it's a player error that creates absolutely devastating psychological damage. Then a former casino employee described it as the worst feeling you can possibly have in a casino, watching someone realize they missed out on a life-changing amount of money because of a betting technicality. The mathematical disadvantage of playing progressive machines without maximum bet is that you're getting the worst possible return to player percentage. Base game RTP on progressive machines typically runs between 85 and 88% when you're not betting max, because a portion of your wager is funding a jackpot that you have absolutely no chance of winning. You're contributing to the prize pool with every spin, but you're not eligible to receive it. The casino floor psychology around progressive machines is specifically designed to show you those big jackpot numbers without emphasizing the qualification requirements. Slot attendants are not instructed to warn players about bet requirements, because according to former employees, that's not considered part of their job responsibilities. Now we're getting to the final 3 habits on this list. And habit number 7 has destroyed marriages and cost people their entire life savings. Habit number 7, hiding gambling activity from loved ones. There was a man named Frank who'd been married to his wife Sarah for 23 years, and for 14 months, he'd been making secret ATM withdrawals during his lunch breaks. $200 here, $300 there, always from different branches, so the pattern wouldn't be obvious on their joint account statements. A former casino host told me something that made him visibly uncomfortable when he said it. He told me they see this pattern constantly on the casino floor. Players who come in during weekday afternoons, who pay cash for everything, who specifically request that no mail be sent to their home address about promotions or offers. Frank's wife Sarah found the bank statements in a drawer where he'd hidden them, and when she added up all the withdrawals over those 14 months, $31,000 was missing from their savings. The reason secrecy creates a compounded disadvantage goes way beyond just the money itself, according to former problem gambling counselors. When you're hiding your gambling, you eliminate every natural accountability mechanism that might normally stop you. There's no friend saying maybe we should leave, no spouse asking how much you're down, no external reality check of any kind. A former counselor told me that secrecy is present in virtually every case of destructive gambling behavior she's ever treated. Statistical analysis from gambling addiction research shows that players who gamble in secret spend approximately 4 times more money than people who gamble socially with friends or family members. And the psychological mechanism is a shame cycle that actually feeds the behavior instead of stopping it. You lose money, you feel ashamed, you hide it, the shame intensifies, and gambling becomes the escape from the shame that gambling itself created. Internal casino observations have noted that solo players who come in during off-peak hours tend to have significantly longer sessions and higher total spend than social groups. There are multiple documented cases where hidden gambling completely destroyed family finances before anyone else knew there was a problem. The pattern typically escalates from hiding small losses to hiding major financial damage, and it follows a predictable trajectory, according to former counselors. When the bank accounts get depleted, credit cards come out, and those get maxed out in secret too. Yes, casinos don't intervene in these situations even when the pattern is obvious to staff, and the reason given is always privacy protection. A former security officer told me they can absolutely identify problem gambling behavior, but they're specifically instructed not to engage with players unless those players directly request help. Frank's situation ended in divorce, bankruptcy, and supervised visitation with his kids. Marriage counselors have reported that gambling secrecy is cited as a contributing factor in 60% of cases involving financial infidelity. The mathematical disadvantage of secret gambling is that there's no external budget enforcement whatsoever. Casino industry responses to this issue include self-exclusion programs, but those require the person to self-identify their problem before any protection activates. Former casino executives have stated in interviews that everything about casino design is intended to keep people in their own bubble, from the removal of visible clocks, to the absence of windows, to the strategic placement of ATMs for convenient access. The isolation creates an advantage for the house because lone players make faster decisions and place larger bets without social break mechanisms. This habit transforms from a simple financial disadvantage into complete life destruction. And if you think that's devastating, The final two habits are actually creating an entirely new generation of problem gamblers that the industry has been specifically designing systems to target. Habit number 8. Playing online or mobile slots. Without understanding the differences. There's a woman named Michelle who's 34 years old, and she started playing iPhone slot games during her lunch breaks at work about 18 months ago. The accessibility factor is what former online casino developers call the perfect trap, because you can gamble anywhere at any time without any of the natural barriers that exist in a physical casino. A developer who worked for a major online gambling platform told me something that honestly should concern anyone who plays digital slots. He said they specifically designed their games for maximum engagement rather than player protection, and the metrics they optimized for had nothing to do with responsible gambling. But the technical differences between online slots and casino floor machines create disadvantages that most players don't even realize exist. Online slots run at speeds between 600 and 800 spins per hour, compared to 400 to 500 on physical machines, which means your money depletes significantly faster. There are no social break mechanisms like a cocktail waitress coming by or another player starting a conversation. Your bank account links directly to the game, so there's no physical moment where you have to get up and walk to an ATM. Autoplay features let you set the machine to spin continuously without any conscious input, which, according to former developers, enables completely unconscious gambling behavior. Statistical analysis from gambling research firms shows that online players lose money 30 to 40% faster than casino floor players when you account for time spent actively gambling. Michelle's pattern started with $50 sessions, but she was playing 3 to 4 times per day during work breaks, lunch hours, and before bed. That added up to between $200 and $300 per week, without her really noticing, because each individual session felt small. The workplace gambling phenomenon has exploded according to former regulators, with multiple documented cases of people playing online slots during office hours on their computers or phones. Return-to-player percentages can actually be worse online depending on the jurisdiction, because regulatory oversight varies dramatically between different markets. A former regulator told me that some online operators can adjust RTP based on individual player profiles in certain markets, something that would be illegal on a casino floor in Nevada. Geolocation technology allows different return rates based on where you're physically located when you play. The mathematical disadvantage gets compounded by the speed factor, because when you're completing 800 spins per hour instead of 400, the house edge impact doubles in real time. Credit card integration creates a psychological distance from real money, according to behavioral researchers. It doesn't feel like actual cash when you're typing in a deposit amount on a screen. Michelle's 6-month total came to $6,800 in losses that she didn't fully comprehend until she went back through her credit card statements. Nobody checked in on her. No host came by to ask if she was okay. No friend suggested they leave and get dinner. The tracking absence means there's zero external intervention until you decide to stop yourself. Bonus structures on online platforms create what former marketers call the trap inside the trap. Free spins come with 40 times playthrough requirements, which means that a $100 bonus actually requires $4,000 in total wagers before you can withdraw anything. A former online casino marketing director admitted in an interview that they knew bonus offers created significantly longer play sessions and substantially bigger losses, and that was exactly why they offered them. Deposit limits sound protective until you realize players just register accounts at multiple sites to get around them. And the pandemic accelerated online gambling revenue by 300% according to industry reports, and the age demographic shifted younger as people who'd never been to physical casinos started gambling on their phones. The neurological response to screen-based gambling produces the same dopamine hits as physical machines, but there's less awareness of physical consequences according to addiction researchers. Online casinos offer free play modes that former marketers openly describe as gateway experiences designed to convert players to real money gambling. There's documentation of a player who started with $10 deposits and reached $500 deposits within 4 months of regular play. The just logging in to check trap keeps players engaged even during moments when they wouldn't physically drive to a casino. And now for the final habit on this list. And this one is so dangerous that addiction counselors are calling it the perfect storm of gambling disadvantage. Habit number 9. Combining multiple habits simultaneously. There was a woman named Patricia who was 67 years old when her husband died, and the life insurance payout came to $85,000. She'd never gambled before in her entire life, but grief does something to your decision-making process that former problem gambling counselors describe as a complete breakdown of normal risk assessment. Patricia started playing online slots about 3 weeks after the funeral, and what happened over the next 11 months demonstrates exactly why habit combination creates exponential disadvantage rather than just additive disadvantage. She was playing on her iPad at home, which is habit number 8. She was gambling to cope with the emotional devastation of losing her husband, which is habit number 4. She had no win or loss limit set before any session, which is habit number 5. She kept the entire situation secret from her daughter who lived 2 hours away, which is habit number 7. And when she started losing, she increased her bet sizes trying to recover what she'd lost, which is habit number 2. The 11-month timeline ended with all $85,000 completely gone. A former problem gambling counselor told me, "This is the most common pattern they see in severe cases that end up in treatment programs. Each habit enables and amplifies the others, creating an environment where massive losses become almost inevitable." Patricia's bank statements show the escalation clearly, according to documentation from her eventual counseling intake. She started with $20 deposits. She moved to $50 deposits within 6 weeks, and by month 4, she was depositing $500 multiple times per day. The mathematical reality is that each individual habit increases your expected loss rate. But the combination doesn't just add those increases together. The effect multiplies exponentially because each habit removes another protective barrier. Casino industry data systems are specifically designed to identify players exhibiting multiple high-value behavioral patterns, according to former data analysts who worked in casino marketing departments. A former analyst said they could predict a player's lifetime value with remarkable accuracy based on which habits they exhibited in combination during their first 3 visits. Patricia's current situation involves living with her daughter, while attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 times per week, and trying to process how she lost everything her husband had worked 40 years to provide for her. The intervention that could have stopped this never happened because every system involved is designed to react only after someone proactively seeks help, not to prevent the damage before it occurs. Self-exclusion programs require you to identify your own problem and take action, which means they fail in exactly the situations where they're most needed. The question of industry responsibility remains deliberately vague in regulatory frameworks, and former casino executives have stated that player protection measures exist primarily to satisfy legal requirements rather than to actually prevent harm. So, you now know the 9 habits that create the biggest disadvantages for slot players, and this is information that typically stays inside the industry rather than reaching the people who actually need it. Former employees across multiple casino properties have confirmed that all 9 of these habits are not just recognized by casino staff, they're actively encouraged through everything from floor design to marketing strategies to staff training protocols. The empowerment that comes from this knowledge is real, because awareness genuinely is the first step toward protecting yourself. There's no judgment here about whether gambling itself is right or wrong, because that's a personal decision everyone makes for themselves. The practical reality is that these 9 habits are designed into the gambling experience itself. A player disadvantage isn't some accident or side effect, it's the actual business model that the entire industry is built around. A former casino executive said in an interview that the last thing they want is informed players who understand these patterns, because what they actually want is habitual players who keep repeating these profitable behaviors. This information usually stays behind closed doors in industry conferences and internal training sessions. The house advantage exists in the mathematics of every game. That's unavoidable, but these habits accelerate the timeline of your losses dramatically. You're the only person who controls your habits, and nobody else is going to protect you from these patterns. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel for more information that casinos really don't want widely known, and let me know in the comments which habit surprised you the most or which one you've seen people do most often. Casino design, from the lighting to the machine placement to the reward programs, fights against every good habit and encourages every bad one. Knowledge about these habits is genuinely the only advantage you're ever going to have walking onto a casino floor. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.